So I am very fortunate today, fam, to be able to bring up Mr. Robert Kiyosaki. He has written over 26 books. He has over 44 million copies of Rich Dad, Poor Dad sold internationally. The man that single-handedly changed my paradigm on how money works, and the creator of my kids' favorite board game, Cash Flow. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Robert Kiyosaki. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show with us today.
The man, the myth, the legend. No, that's it. I'm getting elevated up.
Oh man, so I've met a lot of famous people. I've met a lot of stars, and when I met you at the Collective in Dallas not too long ago, that was the most giddy I've ever been, ever meeting someone, a personality, because you literally changed the trajectory on which my family was headed. I thought I was just going to work hard. And, thanks to your cash flow quadrant, I found out, man, I'm being taxed the most. I was self-employed as an insurance agent. And I was like, man, I really got to rethink this. And my mom is self-employed. She's a realtor. And she was teaching the same things that everybody else is, hey, you go to school, get a good degree, and then go get a high-paying job and work there for 40 years and retire. And something inside me didn't sit well with that. And then I read your book, and it changed everything for me.
Oh, thank you. This is, I just turned 75 in April. And the happiest times of my life today, or the most satisfying, are when young guys like you come up, or they say to me, my father gave me a book, and my mother gave me a book, or my teacher told me about your book. That's the joy of life. I have plenty of money, but it's to educate kids, young people, the future generations, because my whole thing is what the school teach you about money. Nothing. That's not an accident. So that's
a great segue. You were actually asking us in Dallas at the Collective. You're asking us, why don't you guys get together, run a little discussion with your table mates as to what it is that your parents taught you about money. I was kind of a third wheel. I was not participating the way I should have been. And I don't know if you remember this at all, but I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because this is what happened when I wasn't paying attention, and it was very disrespectful of me. And so again, I apologize, but I want to bring this up so everyone else can see what it is I'm talking about. Well, just now, I got a little girl, 16-month-old.
When I picked you up.
I started to hit out, and I said, I want to be respectful. It just kicked me out. And then I decided I'm going to come back in, and I'm going to apologize because that is my bad. Give my hand. And so I learned a pretty powerful lesson, and I came to learn from you. I was on my phone, and I should have been participating, and you rightfully kicked me out. And on my way out, I said, I owe this man an apology. So as everyone went back to work, I stomped back up there, and I deeply set my apology to you because I knew that I had screwed up. And so thank you for accepting that first and foremost.
Well, thank you for apologizing, because that's one of the biggest lessons my rich dad taught me. Is that, in academics, my poor dad was a PhD from Stanford, University of Chicago, and Northwestern, very smart guy. But in academics, if you make a mistake, it means you're stupid. But in the real world, how does a baby learn to walk? Falling down. But what happens is so many people leave academics thinking that if you make a mistake, you're stupid. So they don't make any mistakes. Or if they do, they bury them, like a cat in a litter box. But we don't learn that way. So our whole academic system is constipated. And it's horrifying what they're teaching kids today, gender identity and critical race theory. I just want to say this because I'm Japanese American, fourth generation. America is not a systemically racist country. How dare those guys teach us that? How dare they teach our kids that America's a racist country? That's racism. That is as bad as it gets. So, America is it is, in my opinion, the greatest, or hopefully it'll stay that way. But our academics are killing us.
Yeah.
They're killing us. They're
Absolutely.
destroying capitalism. They're turning us into Nazis and communists. It makes me sick.
I was going to wait till the end to bring this up, but I think this is actually a great segue to your new book. Now, your team sent me the book. I didn't have time. It got to me not long before we started this conversation. So I started reading the foreword on it. And this is your answer to the Communist Manifesto that the school district is teaching, or the public school is teaching to the kids.
Yes. What most people don't know is our academics are Marxists. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Don't get me wrong here. Like my poor dad and most of my family, they're academics. They're Marxists. They hate rich people. Do you know what I mean? Because they never learned about money. So, some of the biggest things that, my dad, he was a member of a labor union. And what Marx taught everybody was that workers of the world unite. So the most powerful union in America today and the richest is the teachers union, the NEA. So Capitalist Manifesto, my copy here, if I can so shamelessly promote it, starts with the NEA. I'm probably going to have a drone strike on my house one of these days.
It's unfortunate how the truth is the first thing to be attacked. So
the reason is economics is like a religion, very simple. It's like we have Christians and Jews and Muslims and Buddhists, and they kill each other. It's a frickin' religion. So communism is a religion, capitalism is a religion, fascism is a religion, socialism is a religion. But when you step on people's religions or their core belief systems, we have death, we have people kill each other. And that's what's going on in our school systems right now. And how dare they talk kids about gender?
Yeah.
I mean, who you sleep with is none of my business.
100%. And it's not a teacher's place to teach my kids that. So we actually have our kids in a public or a private school for that reason, because we are very, very much against that. And it's there was times when before we had made our wealth that it was a very difficult thing to do, but it was the best money we ever spent to not indoctrinate our kids that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrible. Our school systems are communist.
Yep.
Like I said, there's going to be a drone strike on my house, or somebody's going to catch me in bed with a little boy or something, and my reputation will be smeared the world we live in. Like my friend Donald Trump, wrote 2 books together. They took him down through social media. It's a 100%. Dangerous country today because our freedom of speech is gone.
I wasn't going to ask you about this, but I'm curious what you think about. Do you think social media, because your digital identity has become so much a part of us in today's age, and if they delete you from their system or they don't let you access your account, your identity disappears? Do you think it should be regulated as a utility? I mean, they've got more sway than AT&T ever had over the telephone communication systems.
That's way beyond my pay grade, man. I'm a dinosaur when it comes to technology. I mean, I barely use my cell phone. I've got to have younger guys like you teach me how to use it. But my whole thing, the reason I wrote Capitalist Manifesto and I wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad in '97, was the best way to beat Marxism is become a capitalist. But it's hard to become a capitalist if you're taught to be a Marxist.
Yes, 100%, especially if that's because it requires a paradigm shift, and it requires what your rich dad said is for you to be able to be willing to change when new information comes to light. So you have to update your worldview. And so I ordered this book in again because my dog ate my old tattered copy that had all my notes in it. So I reordered this knowing that you and I were going to be talking. I read it in one day. I can't stop. I couldn't stop. I couldn't put it down. It affirmed a lot of things that I had even forgotten about. And even though I watch your program, even though I see everything that you're doing with the people that you're doing, the things you're doing with, I want to thank you again. I said it in the intro, but it literally changed my paradigm on how money works. And I recommend any and everybody. We'll have a link below where you can find Rich Dad's book. So I had a couple of questions on just Rich Dad Poor Dad, because our channel is an education channel for finances. It's finance, fitness, and fashion. And we've got people who are better at the fashion part than I am. We've got some very lovely ladies that are very, very ingrained in that world. But as far as finance and fitness goes, those are probably my two strengths. I work out every day, and I'm always working on my brain to figure out new financial systems. Oh, I love systems. So I'll sit in the sauna and I will just put on music with no words, and I will just brainstorm up how you can monetize business systems and how you can systematize and make things happen so that you can run an empire from this, as you've said yourself. That you can do those things thanks to the software. You can have a big business and not even a lot of employees, thanks to the software and the technology that's available today. So
if I could commend you also for going to the Collective. The reason that's important is what's most important today is who you spend time with. And so what George Gammon and Kenny McElroy and those guys have put together, I mean, I go there to learn. I get to hang out with guys like you. But if you're, what was it all saying? If you hang out with turkeys, it's hard to fly with the birds,
Yeah, hard to fly with the eagles. Yep, that's right.
I'm afraid to say anything today. So talking about the teachers, and I'm not against teachers, I'm against what they teach.
Yes.
If you understand that, why don't they teach capitalism? Why are they teaching Marxism?
Yeah.
That's the question. I went to Vietnam twice. We're talking about, my first ship in 1966 was a Durango Victory. It was an old Victory ship from World War II, and we carried 750, 500, and 1,000-pound bombs to Vietnam. So I'm 1966, I'm 19 years old. I had just read Capitalist Manifesto at the Academy. I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, and I could see communism in Vietnam in real life. And I went, oh my God, this is the future of America. And then in 72, so with that, I turned down a high-paying job with Standard Oil of California because I was an oil, my major was oil tankers. So my first trip was up to Valdez, Alaska, the Alaska pipeline and all this, and so my specialty is oil. Oil tanker driver. So I worked for Standard Oil, and then my conscience got to me, and I volunteered. I quit a high-paying job, and I joined the Marine Corps to go fight in Vietnam. So make a long answer short. So when Biden, as soon as he got elected, he cut down the Keystone XL pipeline. He cuts off oil. Now, if that isn't a treasonous move, when he cut off oil, he did two things. The price of fuel went through the roof, and the price of food is going through the roof. That son of a bitch is killing our country. He and Kamala and all those academic liberals from California and Silicon Valley, that was the first thing they did before even that January 6th thing, he was already going after the oil companies. Yep. And oil is the blood of civilization. He's trying to kill us, and nobody says anything. Nobody says anything.
In fact, certain members of the left applaud him for it.
Yeah, they love it because all the Green New Deals and all that. And we're all greenies. I got my tree back here. And unfortunately, that tree is gone. It was burned down in the California fires. But you know what I mean? And the Green New Deal guys are frickin' communists.
Yeah.
They're like the guys in Vietnam I was killing. It's just horrible. And then I come back to Hawaii. I was stationed overseas. I got stationed at Camp Pendleton, California, and then I got stationed in Hawaii. And I could see what I saw in Vietnam happening. And that's why I wrote my book, Capitalist Manifesto. Actually, that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We've got to teach capitalism because they're teaching our kids communism in school.
It sounds like you believe that I do, that the answer to this, the solution, is better education.
Well, it's different education. What does school teach you about money? Nothing. This is my whole point. If I could go on my shtick right now, what you're talking about, this is the mindset. This is the second book, Cash Flow Quadrant. You have E, S, B, and I. This is Poor Dad. This is Rich Dad. Mm-hmm. So what they teach you in school is go to school, get a job, pay taxes, work hard, save your money. Your house is an asset, and get out of debt. But this is the part that bugs me. And invest in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. You play right into Wall Street's hands. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but give me a choice. And the S here is self-employed, small business, also stands for smart people. That's why I was never here. Doctors, lawyers, and all this. But as you know, these guys pay the highest taxes.
Yep, 100%.
Taxes. These guys pay 40% taxes. This is Rich Dad's side. B stands for big business, 500 employees or more. B also stands for brand. So Rich Dad is a brand. So as an entrepreneur, most entrepreneurs stay here. They pay the highest taxes and they invest in the stock market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. They play right into Wall Street's hands. But over here, when you're a big business, you start a brand, like McDonald's is a brand, Apple's a brand. So the goal of an entrepreneur is start a brand. So that's what Rich Dad is. And I stands for inside investor. In other words, if you invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs, you're an outside investor. I wanted to be an insider. So, George Gammon and Kenny McElroy were insiders. I don't need to go to the stock market. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't need to go there. But because I don't do what this side does here, taxes over here are zero. That's the difference. But they don't do that in school.
Nope, they sure don't. Well, they teach you to invest, but it's the inside investors that put together the financial programs and the financial products like the mutual funds. They're the ones actually making the money, not the investor themselves.
Right. And my concern is the mutual funds and all that whole industry. It was an old industry, but in 1974, when I came back from Vietnam, this is history, ERISA came out, and ERISA's Employee Retirement Income Security Act today is known as the 401k. It's 401ks for these guys here and IRAs for these guys. These are Roth IRAs. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I don't touch them because I'm on this side here. I don't need to touch them. I don't need them. So what you're talking about, and what we talked about at the Collective with George Gammon and Kenny, is that you have a choice. So I'd rather have more control over my life on this side than be a puppet on this side. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, and invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio, stocks, funds, mutual funds, ETF.
No, thank you.
Brainwashing.
100%. That's what I'm teaching my kids. And with the help of the Cash Flow for Kids game, so my oldest, my 16-year-old, he can play the adult version. He can keep a ledger. He's advanced enough now to be able to do that. But the kids, man, my little guys, they love the Cash Flow for Kids game.
Thank you for doing that. I tell you, that makes my heart happy. That's the joy of my life. So if I could explain why we have a game,
please.
Is right in Capitalist Manifesto, this book here, is that as Maria Montessori says, she was an educational entrepreneur. She says, what the hand does, the mind remembers. The trouble with academics, they just lecture. So I go to school, I go in one ear, out the other, I forget everything, take the test and fail. But my rich dad, who was my best friend's father, he had us play Monopoly. And so I'm playing Monopoly, so it's sinking into the neural pathways of my brain. And that's what shifted me over to the B and the I side. I said, I don't want to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. I don't want to save money. I want to use debt as money, because debt is money. And that's why we created the cash flow game. So you can play it, you can move your brain. It's like learning to walk. You can't learn to walk from a book.
Yeah. Well, and you get creative about finding solutions within the game itself of how to move to the next level, how to make an investment work, which is really cool. There's a lot of variables that you have control over within the game.
Right. The big thing here is you play the cash flow game, you have a choice of coming over here then. But without the cash flow game, it's hard to come over here. Not too many people make it, and so the game is teaching you by hand, eye, hand, brain, physically doing, interacting. You win, you lose, you make mistakes. That's real life. Not give your money to a frickin' financial planner. Now, the reason I say that is because most when in 74, like I said, when ERISA started, the first thing I noticed is every school teacher quit their job to become financial planners. To me, I sat there cracking I just come back from Vietnam. I'm a Marine. I'm pretty cynical. I got tired of being spit on and hit by eggs and called a baby killer by my own people. But these school teachers run off to become financial planners. To me, that was the poor teaching the blind.
Yeah. I think I read recently, maybe it might be outdated by about 5 years, but I think what I read was the average broker, your average financial advisor only makes $17,000 a year. Why would you trust your money with someone who makes less than you do?
But they work for Wall Street.
Yes.
And they work for the Fed. And that's what I cover in this book here, Capitalist Manifesto. It's called the shadow banking system. The shadow banking system is 1 million times bigger than the U.S. economy.
Crazy to think.
And the Fed has no control over it. But everybody, the Fed said this, the Fed said that. They don't even know what the Fed is.
Yeah, I was just listening to a podcast as you came on with Richard Werner, and I've come to love that guy. I've seen him on Patrick Bet-David and George Gammon's channel. I've come to love that guy. He's the one that came up with the term quantitative easing for all of you out there that aren't familiar with that. And he's got a lot of things to say about how money is really made, not how people think money is made.
but you can't even see the shadow banking.
Nope. Yep.
And
in fact, he talks about the money creation, how there's a lot that you're not allowed to really talk about if you're in that industry. You're not allowed to talk about the real way money is generated.
And that's why the former financial planner on our Rich Dad team, John McGregor, and he saw the light too. He says, so he wrote a book for Rich Dad. It's called The Top 10 Reasons Why Rich People Go Broke. And the reason is they follow salespeople. Most financial, nothing against sales. We all have something to sell. But they're telling people what to do. When you look at the ESB and the I, they're programming kids to do as they're told.
Yep.
Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, pay taxes, get out of debt, and invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. That's brainwashing.
100%. Well, that's actually right along the lines of lesson number 1 in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So chapter number 1 is that the rich don't work for money. The poor and middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them.
And that's why we don't pay taxes. It's opposite. The shadow banking system is opposite because you can't see it. And, that's like I said, as soon as Biden was elected, before he was inaugurated, he was cutting down the Keystone XL pipeline, something about because I'm an oil guy. And oil went from $30 a barrel to $130 a barrel. So I got richer, but he's bankrupting the people of America. Yeah. That's treason.
Agreed. 100% agree. In lesson 2 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, why teach financial literacy? It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. This is just reinforcing everything that you're saying here. Staying on the B and the I side of the cash flow quadrant, navigating the shadow banking system and using it to your advantage. And that's just a function of you understanding how money actually works. So with the Capitalist Manifesto, now I didn't get to read this section yet. Can you give me a little bit more information on how you focus or teach people to keep that money? And feel free to use the B and the I side of the cash flow quadrant. But I'm curious, do you have any specifics on that?
Well, you did a good tee up on that. First chapter of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is rich don't work for money. And then I got hammered for that one back in 25 years ago. And then savers are losers and the rich don't pay taxes. Well, we all know that, but you don't know how to do it because you went to school and you're doing as you're told. So the reason I created the cash flow game with my wife, Kim, is this here. Awaken your financial genius and take control of your financial future. That's the purpose of the game. So once you understand, and this here, this is the board, this is the financial statement you play in cash flow. That's where you actually have to do it. You've put in the numbers, not hard math, it's just putting the right numbers in the right boxes and managing your cash flow. But if you do as you're told, get a job and become a doctor or a lawyer, you have no control of your cash flow. And you have to invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs.
Yep.
But as a capitalist on the B and the I side, I create my own deals. I can put my own deal together, Like just now, I sold some property in Bisbee, Arizona, where I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I made like $350,000. It's not big money, but I bought 30 Wagyu cattle and is bred by a Japanese Wagyu bull, something I always wanted to be a breeding bull. But, so he has sex with my 30 cows and then they drop calves and cash flow repeats.
Yep.
And if a bull is dropped, because he's a Wagyu bull from a Japanese stud, that bull becomes a breeding bull too. So that's how you get rich. So I'm investing in food now because we're going into a famine with the war in Ukraine right now. Ukraine feeds about 30% of the world wheat.
Yep.
There's mass starvation coming up. And that's what Biden and these guys are doing. I can see it. I went to the military school. I fought for the U.S. Marine Corps. I know what those sons of the bitches are doing, but nobody says anything. How dare they do that? So that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and wrote Capitalist Manifesto in 2022.
That's one of the reasons I really like technology advancing the way that it is. YouTube is eating people's lunch when it comes to networks because people realize I can go get the news that I want from the people that I trust, and I don't have to stick to the 3 big names that are pumping out the propaganda. And then they can also learn whatever they want without having to pay huge tuitions. So I'm very excited about So I think technology is either going to enslave man or it's going to free man. I'm hopelessly optimistic that it's going to bring an age of enlightenment where people actually take control of their futures.
Yeah, everybody should be an optimist, but you also have to be a pessimist to see the dark side. And the dark side is perpetrated by guys like Biden and Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi. I don't know how they Klaus Schwab. Mm-hmm. And then the academic system runs it. I mean, again, how dare the teachers teach America is a systemically racist country? I am Japanese. I know there's racists out there, but 95% of the Americans or most people throughout the world are not racist.
Nope.
They'll take you at face value.
100%.
And so that's what pisses me off about school teachers right now. They're communists.
Yeah.
They're just doing as they're told because they're afraid of losing their frickin' jobs.
So how do people fight that though? I mean, if they're the largest lobbyists out there and they have the most power politically, I mean, do we need a convention of states? Do we need states seceding from the nation? What do you see as a solution for that?
Well, I think it's going to take strong individuals. Like when people say, well, how do you say you don't pay taxes? I say, well, look, America wasn't founded in 1776. Look at history. Founded in 1773. It was called the Boston Tea Party. And Americans are a bunch of revolutionaries. We said, we're not going to pay that tax anymore. So it was a Boston Tea Party. And that's what's happening today. Do you know what I mean? And Marx said, and a progressive income tax is essential for communism. Mm-hmm. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that communist, stands up there and says, tax the rich. She is the biggest lying SOB. I could use a few other words. I mean, I can't believe this. I fought in Vietnam twice for our freedom. Touch my freedom of speech and don't touch my guns.
And from the bottom of my heart, I come from a military family. Thank you so much for your service, sir. I really do appreciate that. And that is probably the ultimate cause to fight for, to keep our way of life. And I appreciate you being willing to do that for us on our behalf.
And I'm still fighting. That's why I wrote, Capitalist Manifesto. In there, you'll find out about the shadow banking system. The Fed chairman is like the Wizard of Oz. He's a little guy who has no power. But everybody goes, oh, the Fed said this. Don't fight the Fed. Do as the Fed tells you. That's more the go to school and do as you're told. It's called programming. It's called brainwashing. It's called all that other stuff. Indoctrination.
Well, I'd like to circle back real quick here. So we had, when you say the solution is individuals, leaders stepping up, we had G. Edward Griffin on our channel not too long ago.
He's a great man.
Yes, he is. And he's brilliant. And I never thought of the concept before until I'd heard him say it, but he said there's 3% of the population are the forward thinkers. And all they got to do is convince 15% of the population to follow them. Once you get 15% of the population to follow you, you can actually change the way things are going. And I think one of those leaders today is George Gammon. The man is suing the Federal Reserve. That is not, you got to have some spine. You have to have some backbone to be able to paint that target on your back.
I was with him and Kenny at a party the other night. Those guys are the best of the best, man. They have, as the Mexicans would say, cojones.
Cojones. I knew Ken, I was going to get along well with him. My business partner, Roy, you got to meet him. He's another Marine. He became fast buddies with Ken, and he told me all kinds of stories. And so when I got to meet Ken at the Collective, the guy had so many stories, and I will not repeat them because I don't think he'd like me to. But man, some of the stories he had, that guy had me rolling on the ground. Yeah. You have such a great inner circle of people. And so I'm excited to hang out with you guys more as there's more collective events and more of these events that you guys are throwing together.
Yeah, if I could give a plug for the Collective, I don't get paid to speak there, but I go there for the same reason. I think the most important thing you could do today is surround yourself with like-minded people. Don't pollute your brain.
Yep.
Holy mackerel. And it's expensive. I'm not saying it's inexpensive, but what's your future worth to you? And to meet great people, I go there for the stimulation of my brain. Yep. And other deals and this, what are people doing, The reason I talk about the Keystone XL pipeline is that it was designed to make the poor and middle class poorer. And I'm afraid as a U.S. Marine, I've killed a lot of people. As a helicopter pilot, we called in airstrikes all over the place. We're going to go to revolution. That's my greatest fear right now. It's going to be America Mexicans killing Americans.
You think it'll be a bloody revolution?
Yeah. And there's going to be starvation, which is why I invest in breeding bulls. Put your money where you can help society.
I live in a very small cultural community, and I do it on purpose. I grew up part-time in Denver with my dad and in rural Colorado with my mom. And I prefer rural Colorado. I'm not stacked on top of everybody. We've got, a very close-knit community that if any one of us are hurting or failing, our neighbors will feed one another.
Right.
We've got the resources, we've got the land, we've got the crops, we've got the cattle. We've got ways to sustain if things go bad. But even more important than that is that the support that I get from my community in helping raise my children, that my kids don't get away with anything. And I didn't understand this when I was growing up. I'd come home. Doesn't matter if I ditched school or accidentally barked the tires on Main Street. My parents knew about it before I got home. Hey, I heard what happened. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they give you the opportunity to tell on yourself first before they came out about it. But yeah, I kind of like the opportunity for the community to really police themselves. And I don't see that in a lot of the big cities.
No.
And so I don't wish for that, but I think that people that are looking forward into time, and I don't mean looking forward and they're hoping it happens, but looking forward into what could happen if there is a bloody revolution, you guys should really consider where you are geographically and who you have around you permanently. Not just your friends that are around the world, but who are geographically close to you.
Yeah, one of the best things the Marine Corps did was they threw us out into the swamps of Florida with no food, and they wanted us to find out how long did it take us to revert to cavemen, to animals. How long it took? 3 days.
Really?
Hunger and cold, and they were chasing us, through the woods. It's all pilot training. Within 3 days, we're nuts. I remember we shot a raccoon finally with a slingshot, and one raccoon among 8 guys, grown men, all in their 20s, we started growling. You got too much. You took too much of him. Days. And so food, hunger, cold, it reverts us back pretty quickly. So that's why, people, I don't have to worry, I have enough food. That's what Biden and those elites did when they cut off the Keystone. They want to pit us against each other.
Well, that's the Machiavellian way. Why have an armed populace that can join forces and come against you, who actually are the people that really created the problem, when you can just turn them on themselves and let them fight themselves?
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened when, like I said, I'm an oil guy. I sailed oil tankers with Standard Oil all over the world. And I was up in Alaska when they opened up the Alaska pipeline. And then I said, oh my God, I'm on the wrong side. I shouldn't be on the ship. I should be drilling oil wells. So I own oil wells today. I don't own oil stocks. I own the oil well. I own the oil. Just like I own the beef that my cattle produce. I own the gold my gold mines and the silver mines produce.
Yeah.
But you can't do that if you haven't been taught to be an entrepreneur.
Actually, you segued nicely into a question that I have that I've heard from other people when we've discussed you and your books, is why does this gentleman invest so much in gold and silver when he has no plans of ever selling it?
Because I don't need to sell it, because if you understand you understand global macro finance or the shadow banking system. I use debt. You see, in 1971, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And in 72, I was flying in Vietnam, and my rich dad wrote me and he says, hey, watch out, the world's going to change. Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. I said, what does that mean? So in 1972, my co-pilot and I formed a little company and went looking for gold in Vietnam. And the problem was the NVA, North Vietnamese Army, had overrun the gold mine. But proving that Marines aren't the brightest guys on earth, we decided we'd just fly behind enemy lines and go find some gold. And I tell you, there was a little Vietnamese woman, and we disarmed. We shut the helicopter down. Or we tell the crew chief, sit there with the machine guns ready. And we walk in with our hands up through the village, because it's NVA now. And the Vietnamese said, what are these crazy Americans doing here? We walk up to the gold window to buy some gold. And we tried to get a discount because gold had started at 35 and was now 50 an ounce. And which I tried to buy it for 40. And this little Vietnamese woman had red teeth, like this, because they chew beetle nuts. I said 40. She goes, F you.
She knew more about the gold macroeconomics than you did at the time.
But yeah, she just said, she didn't know English. She said spot. And I didn't know what spot meant. Spot is, for those who know, is the price of gold on this day all around the world. Like today, it's 1850. Mm-hmm. That's spot. That's what it's trading at today. The good thing about gold is no counterparty risk. The counterparty risk is the Federal Reserve Bank and the U.S. Treasury.
Well, do you think that ETFs and gold and stock manipulation of gold and silver have affected its price? Because you're not any higher than you were 10 years ago with the price of gold.
Well, I've been buying gold at $50.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago it was $300. So they want to tell you it's not going up. But is it manipulated? Absolutely. JP Morgan was just sued $1 billion for manipulation. And the way they manipulate is in the futures market. They can print gold too. It's called an ETF.
Yep.
ETF. I'm not saying don't buy it. I'm saying just wake up.
You'd just rather hold the actual underlying asset.
Well, because I use debt as money. So I don't need cash. So I save gold and silver. I have some Bitcoin, but I use debt. That's why I like real estate. I go to my banker and I say, I have a $25 million property. How much will you give me? They break their back to give me money.
Yeah.
Because money is only created when there's debt created.
Yep.
That's what happened in 71. So when guys like Dave Ramsey said, get out of debt, that's almost un-American.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave's a good friend of mine. He says, yeah, but most Americans can't handle debt. I say, I agree with you.
Yep.
But if you might be a capitalist, you better learn how to handle debt.
His message isn't a bad message. It's just not, if you're a sophisticated investor or a business owner, that's where you should be, is utilizing that debt.
Let me plug the reason my wife and I created the cash flow game in 96 here is to awaken your financial genius and then take control of your financial future. Because I don't need ETFs. I don't need stocks. I don't need bonds, which are crashing. I don't need any of that stuff. I can put my own deals together. Thank you. So I just sold my property, which I have no money into, made $350,000, and I buy a breeding bull, because I'm going to provide food. The more the bull and the cows screw, the richer I get.
Yep. As an insurance agent, the first thing, because I was very much a farm agent and a crop insurance agent, when I hear that you paid that much for a bull, which I understand, Wagyu beef is definitely the primo of beefs out there. The first thing that goes through my mind is, I hope he has a great mortality policy for that bull.
Well, I mean, I just use debt. I don't know if people understand that. I'm $1 billion in debt, but debt that makes me money. But
the cash flow.
Most people have debt that costs them money.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they have no financial education. They went to school, they're employees or doctors, and they know jack shit about money. But they're very smart people, good, hardworking, honest people, but they were taught by Marxists.
Yep. Well, we actually, so I'm very much a cryptocurrency enthusiast. I've made a very large fortune thanks to cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is not one that I am a fan of. It's like using a VHS tape when we have streaming services like Netflix now. But it did prove the concept of protecting against the double spend, the Byzantine generals problem. But we actually, using some of the information that I learned through Rich Dad, Poor Dad, we created our own deal. So we saw what Grayscale did with Bitcoin, and we took an opportunity to take a trust that holds digital currencies within its trust and created our own financial product that hopefully will be Q1 of 2023 will go live on the NASDAQ, just like Grayscale did. And so we're really excited about that. It's called the Hex Investment Trust. And so we are very, very excited and very much inspired by you to create our own deal to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, good luck, because it's not that I'm not a fan of Bitcoin. I'm a fan of blockchain. Mm-hmm. And this is what blockchain is. This is the financial statement from the cash board game. Yep. Blockchain is a ledger. It's called ghost.
It's literally a ledger. Yep.
Yeah, that's all it is. And this is what we teach in the cash flow board game. I mean, it's not that big. I just don't want to go to school and get a job and work for the government.
I love it. So what actually, that fits very well with lesson 3 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Mind your own business. The rich focus on their asset columns while everyone else focuses on their income statements. And you made a pretty profound point in there that you may be an employee when you first start off because you don't have any assets yet. And that may be where you need to get your income. But the number one thing you need to do is, instead of stacking liabilities like most Americans do, you want to stack that asset column.
Right. It's really simple. Again, this is the finance from the cash flow game. Every time you play the game, you got to fill this out. So it's training the neural pathways in your brain, eye-hand coordination, brain, talking to people, deals are coming up. But this here is where school teaches you to focus on the income statement. This is poor dad, and keep your expenses low. This is rich dad here. Focus on assets, because this is your business here, and use liabilities to buy your assets. I mean, it's not that hard. What I do is, when I want a new Ferrari, I just buy an asset, and the asset pays for my Ferrari, and I get it for tax-free. That's financial education. Not go to school, get a job, and invest in a 401k. Do as you're told.
Yeah.
Listen to what I say. Fight the Fed. Oh, how stupid.
So for those of my listeners that will watch this, essentially, let's just use a small example here. Say it's a 30-unit apartment building complex that Robert might buy here, and with the cash flow that throws off after paying the liability on it on a monthly basis, has cash flow left over that pays his monthly liability on the Ferrari that he finances as well. Is that correct?
Correct. But not only that, let's say the property throws off $1,000 net cash flow, but I then use a tax law because I can depreciate, amortize, and appreciate the property, all tax-free. Yep. So $1,000 is tax-free. Then I buy a Ferrari. Yep. That's financial education. That's capitalism. The other side, go to school, get a job, invest in the stock market for long-term, communism. Central banks are communists. If you understand that, that's why they're called central banks. They have no control over the shadow banking system, which is the euro-dollar system, euro-yen, euro-dollar, euro-peso, euro-euro. They have no control over that, but they pretend they do.
Yep. Very interesting. I love that the point that you and Mr. Wheelwright have made in the past and continue to make and drive home, that the tax code is literally just a list of things the government wants you to do, and they will give you benefits in order to do so.
They're called incentives.
Yes.
If you buy condominium or you buy apartment houses, we'll give you an incentive. You use debt, we'll give you an incentive, no taxes. But if you work for money like idiots do, you pay taxes. So there's 3 types of income: earned, portfolio, passive. Passive income is cash flow from assets, not taxed.
Fantastic.
You have to have a good good tax accountant and attorney to do that. Don't do it on your own because you go to jail.
Yes.
I didn't want to go to jail and become somebody's boyfriend,
Well, that's another. No, I don't want that either, for you or for me, sir. So that's one point that I try to drive home with my kids all the time, is that even in the private school that's not teaching you the same things the public school is teaching you, they still want you to know all the answers when you get to test time. They want you to know it all, and that's not how the real world works, because you don't have to know all the answers. I've got a team of about 10 business partners. We've got about 6 or 7 different businesses that we run. And it's because we all bring something to the table that the other people don't know. One is great at marketing, the other at sales, one is a CPA, the other is a legal attorney. Like, we need each other, and our success is predicated upon us leaning on each other's strengths, instead of me and trying to be strong in all those categories, which I will never be. And I'm not afraid to admit that.
Well,
so I love your concept.
In school, if you did that, it's called cheating.
Yep, 100%.
My father was head of education from Hawaii. So I look at his teacher's manual. It's a definition of cheating: giving aid to someone in need. And so if all these academic types who have to know all the answers, and an idiot like me, I just have a good team around me.
Yeah, well, I learned that from you. So of course it's smart, right?
Yeah. And that's why I could plug the Collective again, what you go to. It's expensive, but what's your future worth to you? We're going down. I mean, this is going to be the biggest crash in world history. Never been this big. We're probably heading into a depression. And it's not a depression like we know. It's called it's just no growth. And people will start losing their jobs, and people will go bankrupt. But it's not like a depression, because the other guys will get richer.
Yeah.
What's your future worth? Hang out with a financial planner and a school teacher? I'd slit my wrist.
So I come from a community of cryptocurrency enthusiasts as well. One thing I learned very quickly, we created a company called Mountain Crypto Advisors, where we help very wealthy individuals that have made money in crypto. This is where we started, to protect their assets within corporations and trusts, right, so that they personally do not own anything. And it was appalling to me how many of these speculators that appeared to know what they were talking about when they made a lot of money realized really quickly that they don't understand anything about taxes or wealth protection. And you actually touched on that with lesson number 4, the history of taxes and the power of corporations. So, and your rich dad taught you to play the game smart and did it through corporations, the biggest secret of the rich. And so I'd love to, I'm going to be doing more educational courses on this for people to try to educate. Yeah, absolutely. But you utilize this yourself, and it's something that you've been taught from a young age to utilize.
Well, again, it's what did my poor dad teach me, and what did my rich dad teach me? And my poor dad says, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, invest in the stock market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETF, and get out of debt. I do exactly the opposite. So anyway, it's a different world, but as long as you can take control of your money and your future, then no matter what happens, your future is bright. But if you're just waiting to be told what to do, I'll pray for you tonight. You know what I mean?
Yep, 100%. Well, that's, I think, why you focus so much on financial IQ, the knowledge of the 4 broad areas of expertise: accounting, investing, understanding markets, and law.
Yeah. And even with Bitcoin, I waited to go to 20,000. I think in 2017, it dropped to 300. I should have bought it then, but I wanted to make sure it was going to recover.
Early 2019, 3,700. It went down to its new local low.
So I waited. It had momentum. I said, well, this is a little bit for real. So I bought it at 6,000. I bought 30 coins at 6 and 30 at 9. And today, I think it's at 31,000 today. This is June. I'm still in the money. I'm not going to sell it, but I'm just learning how the market works and the insanity of it. Well, like I said, I didn't invest in Bitcoin. I invest in blockchain, and this is blockchain. It's a ledger.
And that's what I'm a big fan of, that the decentralized ledger that is blockchain. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that technology. And then no one being able to come in and edit the books. There's no cheating. There's no shadow banking with it.
So if I could plug my game again.
Please do.
Corey said, what the hand does, the mind remembers. So that's the board game. You can play it for hours and have fun, but this is what they send you to school to do. You get in the rat race.
Yep.
Now, with financial education, you can enter the fast track. This is where your financial genius lies. Just like I said, I sold my property in Arizona and I buy a breeding bull. I don't need an ETF to do that.
No, you don't.
And I use debt. I don't work for my money. And I minimize my taxes legally. I own gold mines, silver mines, oil wells. So because gold, silver, oil are real money. And so, 1,000 years from now, well, maybe not for oil, but gold and silver have been around since God put it here. That's why I call gold and silver God's money and Bitcoin people's money. But all Bitcoin is a ledger system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, our community is very, and I know you had talked with Charlie from Cultivate Crypto and Miguel from Dollar Cost Crypto on Rollo Tomasi's show. They're good buddies of mine, and they let you know about Hex. And I really enjoy the idea of Hex because it throws off it's a better Bitcoin. It's a Bitcoin that throws off a cash flow. I'm not going to sit here and shill that to you, but I love that the advances of the technology have come so that you can program money to do certain things. Do you see cryptocurrencies being a real money like gold and silver in the future?
I think it's inevitable.
Yep.
That's why I haven't sold my Bitcoin. I have Ethereum also, but that's all I have. This is my little cell phone here. I have to have guys your age help me with it.
Well, I'll see you in Scottsdale this week, so we'll help you out with that cell phone. Get you a wallet and send you some stuff.
Well, that's why I'd rather buy a breeding bull.
There you go. Hey, no problem there. I see. I love that mindset. I love the idea of, so you're not boxing yourself into one box. You're not just a real estate guy. You're not a guy that takes companies public. You're not just a guy that does land deals and breeding bulls, but you're willing to use your brain on any good opportunity that you see. I really like that about you.
That's the cash flow game. You have the rat race and the fast track. Where do you want to be? Rat race? Fast track. But that's what the purpose of the game is: awaken your financial genius and take control of your financial future.
Yep.
I don't care what the frickin' Fed does. I'm going to pump oil out there. I'm going to pump gold. I'm going to pump silver, and now cows.
I love it. You said you were able to retire at 47 thanks to technology and having someone like yourself that paved the way for people like myself. I was able to retire. I haven't quite turned 40 yet, and I retired this year. So,
gotcha. And you're free.
I'm free. I'm out of the rat race. I'm on the fast track now.
Yeah. And people think, well, do I sit and play golf? I said, no, I'm busier than ever. I got breeding bulls to breed.
I got 6 or 7 new businesses, and some of them were taken public. And I've got a guy here on the screen with me that was very much an inspiration in doing so. So again, I thank you for sharing your knowledge.
It makes me the most satisfied, because when I came in 97, I came out with Rich Dad Poor Dad, a communist rag called the New York Times. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I said, maybe you don't.
Yeah, you were vilified. So I got to talk with Bob. Who did he work for? Was it NBC or CBS? I think it was CBS, wasn't it? When he found you and brought you on the tour, and more people were interested. I wish I could remember Bob's name.
Bob Waterman.
Yes, Waterman. Thank you. I got to sit down and talk with him at the Collective. And so that's another thing, guys. Any of you who are interested, it's not just about meeting Jason Hartman, Ken McElroy, George Gammon, Robert Kiyosaki. Man, the people that are there, just the whole collective itself are just some of the most amazing people and individuals. Some of the most deep conversations I've had in years were at the Collective. Just
Amen. That's it.
Yes. Yep.
That's it. Your future is determined by the people that are around you today.
I agree.
What's your future worth to you? 401k? Job security?
No, thank you. I'd rather it be in my hands.
Yeah. I like having, I've lost a lot of money. I've made a lot of money, and that's why we're going to Ken McElroy's this weekend, and you'll meet my oil guy there and all that stuff. And so my oil wells, I was drilling them at $30 a barrel. Today I look like a freaking genius.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And they pay for like 20 years. Cash. Yeah. Name of the game is cash flow. Remember that. Not job security.
I love that.
Freedom is giving you a choice. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And way back when, I could be like my poor dad, because when I came back from Vietnam, he says, oh, good, you can fly for the airlines and go back to school, get your master's degree, and then you're
over-specialized.
I said, I wind up like you. And my rich dad said, the first thing you have to do is learn how to sell, raise capital. So I took a job with Xerox because I had sales training, not because I love Xerox machines. I just wanted the education. And there I met my best friend, and he just sold his business for $2 billion.
Ooh, nice.
It's who you hang out with is your future. So that's why the collective is priceless. Expensive, but what's your future worth?
Oh, it's definitely worth the price tag there.
The people you meet, the instructors they bring in. Who was that doctor they brought in? I mean,
Dr. Peter. I have his book over here on the other desk here. McCullough.
Yeah,
Peter McCullough. Man, he was vilified for telling the truth, for just showing truths, just like you. Been vilified for it.
It's more than vilified. It's a violation of freedom of speech, and that's higher than vilification. That's criminal.
Yeah.
It's a sin what they're doing. But today you can't even tell a joke because you're a racist or a sexist or a pervert or a deviant. And going, what happened to the sense of humor?
Those are the things that made humor.
It's like I tell people I always wanted to be a Japanese breeding bull, so I bought one. They go, you're a sick individual. I said,
yeah, I'm not politically correct, and I'm reminded that all the time. Well, and that's where I don't even think that it's not government's place to dictate anything anyway.
Well, we have this legal, ethical, and moral.
Absolutely.
It's who you look in when you look in the mirror, what do you see? So I sit here, I can look with a clear conscience. I say what I have to say. I'm not going to be censored. Screw them. I fought for our freedom. A lot of my friends didn't come back. We fought for this. And then how dare they, when they met me at the airport, those hippies from Woodstock, spit on me, hit me with eggs, called me a baby killer. I went nuts. And I didn't go nuts. I said, I fought for you sons of bitches. So they're all living in California now, thank God.
And that's why you don't live there, right?
No, the taxes drove me out. They were taxing me on worldwide income. I'm going, holy mackerel, I'm out of here.
You understand where your liabilities are, and you're a smart man.
America was born as a tax-free nation, 1773. We were not born in what the 1619 Project or whatever the thing they have. They were a racist country. How dare they teach us that? How dare they? How dare they? That is not America, sons of bitches. And I've experienced racism. My family were locked up in internment camps in California. And my uncles, because of that, I had 5 uncles fight in World War II, 3 in Europe, 2 in Japan. We fought for America, even though they locked our families up, took everything we had from them. So they talk about reparations for the blacks. I'm going, what about the reparations for my family?
100%, yeah. If we're going to go down that road and have that real discussion, we need to be honest about where all of it needs to lie.
Well, how about the leaking of the Roe versus Wade thing from the Supreme Court? If you trust the Supreme Court, we're in serious trouble.
Most of us aren't ignorant out there. A lot of us are too busy trying to survive in the rat race to really get involved, I think, or lazy, one or the other. But those of us who are paying attention, there was some pretty shady circumstances behind that being leaked the way it was.
Or how about Hunter Biden's computer?
Why are we not talking about that in all the corruption that's been proven on it?
And how can the FBI lose it? Give me a break.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
if it had been you or I, they wouldn't have lost that laptop.
I knew, when I wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad in 1997, 25 years ago this year, I knew it was going to get bad, but not this bad. And the reason I talk about Vietnam and all that is I went to Vietnam to fight for our freedom. My uncles fought in Japan for freedom against the Japanese. One got captured and tortured and castrated. I had 3 uncles fight in Europe. And the 442nd, the Japanese infantry battalion, the 442nd Battalion, became the most highly decorated infantry battalion in American history. We fight for our country. We fight for our freedoms. And these sons of a bitches are stealing it from us right under our noses. Mm-hmm. So that's why I wrote this book here, Capitalist Manifesto.
When and where can people pick this Capitalist Manifesto up?
I can get it from my library. I think it's on Amazon and all that stuff. But
I think it's November. I think you have to pre-order it for November. I think that's why I reached out to your team to see if I could get a copy of it so I could at least preview it before you and I spoke.
Yeah, well, first there was no paper, and then second of all, they were already sold out. Because I did a whole 10-part series with people who actually experienced communism, like Patrick Bet-David. He understands communism. Mm-hmm. And read people from Cuba and China who ran from communism. But Americans don't even know what communism is, except until they go to school today, and they're indoctrinated by communists. Go to school, get a job, save money, invest for the long term in the stock market. And they don't know that paying taxes is Marxist.
Yep, the same year of the creation of the progressive federal income tax, the same year the creation of the Fed.
It's also essential for communism. That's what Marx said in 1848. Communist Manifesto is only 40 or 50 pages. And it's done more damage to the world than any other book. So that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and now the Capitalist Manifesto. We have to fight back with our ideas.
Yes, 100%. So to one thing I did read before I came on here was, and I think this is amazing, How to Protect Yourself When Communists Attack. Question, how many people have socialists killed? After socialists took control in their countries, history reminds us that their leaders, Marx, Stalin, Lenin, Hitler, Mao, and others, had to kill at least 130 million people to install a socialist form of government. In August of 2021, the murders began in Afghanistan. There was not a single person, none of our leaders had to kill anyone in America to create the American Constitutional Republic. Right. It's a great point that you make in this book here.
And that book is just quotes. That's all it is. It's like quotes from Eisenhower, but also quotes from Khrushchev. He told us they were coming after us.
Yep.
But and then what I found out in my research was communism entered America in 1930 from the Frankfurt School out of Berlin, and they went to Columbia University Teachers College, academics. And then what happened was then I was in school in New York in the 60s, And that's when the student riots broke out at Columbia University.
Mm-hmm.
It's a communist organization. And so I'm going, holy mackerel, they're revolting. And that student protest spread all across the United States. And for our generation, was Kent State was the next one, where they murdered 4 kids. But also it was the kids who are communists or fighting for whatever they were fighting for. They shouldn't have shot them. But I tell you, the protest spread, and then it went to Berkeley. It just keeps spreading. And now these are the people who are school teachers today.
Yeah.
And it started at Columbia University. And Dennis Prager calls it the school of cowardice.
Yeah.
They teach cowardice.
Yep. 100%. So obviously the education system and now the entertainment industry, well, this is not new either. They've been doing this for a while. What other attack vectors do you see them coming with their agenda?
Well, the military, the Marine Corps is now woke. There's something really sick going on. I just can't believe it. The hardest thing for me in Vietnam was that the reason we trained so hard, the more dangerous the mission, the more you've got to prepare. So it took me 8 years before I could fly. That's how much preparation it put us through. So I had 4 years of academy, 2 years of flight school in Pensacola, and 2 years of Camp Pendleton, advanced weapons. And then I got into Vietnam. The reason we trained so hard is your co-pilot, your other pilots count on you. So that's why some of the saddest days of my life, I'm standing on the deck of the carrier and your friend doesn't come back. So today their crews don't come back. So today they're MIA, missing in action. And so that's why I say today, I'm alive today because dead men kept fighting. And when that happens to you, I continue to fight. I fight for them. I fight for the freedom of this country. I fight against communists. And our schools are filled with them. That's why the Black Lives Matter, critical race theory, gender bending, and no financial education. Is that a mistake? Is that an accident?
No.
Biden cut down the Keystone XL pipeline accidentally? Did he shut down drilling in Anwar? Or is he trying to bankrupt the middle class and poor through inflation? That's what he's doing.
What's going on. That's exactly what's going on.
And then out of that comes revolution. And that's why I put in Capitalist Manifesto the number of people communists have killed. It's in the hundreds of millions.
So I have a friend who's very high up on the financial side of the Texas secession movement. And I really like what they're doing. And I said, do you think that Texas would ever secede? And he said, well, if it were ever actually brought to a bill at the state level, it may actually happen. He goes, but I think more importantly, what it does is it brings more of an awareness of the republic that we have once lost, that we once were operating under, that we've lost. And he thinks it would bring more people, because I think we're only you need 35 states for the Convention of States to reorganize the federal government, and we've got 30 signed on. He thinks it would be the catalyst to push over the last 5.
Yep. And then you look at red states and blue states and all that garbage. I'm selling everything in Hawaii because it's definitely blue. It's so Marxist, but it's been that way for a long time because of the unions.
Yeah.
The Japanese and Chinese and the Portuguese and the Filipinos came over and they formed unions, understandably so, and protect their wages and all this. But now they're political. They're a political bloc, and our governor is a frickin' criminal. So and then there's guys like Trump who get taken down by socialist media in a rigged election. That the Ganesh D'Souza, 2,000 mules or something.
Yeah. That was an amazing editorial that he made. I didn't realize how deep that really went. And I thank goodness for guys that are willing to be attacked and censored and vilified, like Dinesh D'Souza, to bring those facts to light. And Dr. Peter McCullough and George Gammon and yourself, Robert Kiyosaki. Thank you guys for being the warriors on the front lines, being willing to take the slings and arrows to wake the rest of us up.
Yeah, and we're fighting back. I'm going to start a program inside Arizona State University. So I'm going to teach entrepreneurship in Arizona State University.
I love that idea.
And then Prager University, we're doing more joint ventures with them. So we fight back. We can bitch and moan and complain, but as we say in the Marine Corps, what are you going to do about it? And most people do nothing. They bitch and moan, bitch about the price of gas going into their leased SUV on an Overmax credit card. Mm-hmm. They don't have any idea what's going on.
Yep. Well, soldier reporting for duty, sir. So keep leading the way, my friend. We appreciate it.
Thank you for doing what you're doing. And America is the greatest country there ever was. And we're not a racist country, but we have racists leading it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today, sir. You have a great day.